Well, good morning to you. Good morning. Saturday, 10th of June 2023, after the rain. The ground is still like concrete, but the top couple of centimetres is slightly moist. Yeah, and it's hard work digging, and I've already been out here and we're trying to make some sense out of Brussels sprout plants and dirt and stuff. Right. Brother George asked me to give a bit of background about what made me retire and what made me decide that France and Azay-le-Ferron and this particular house was what I wanted to be involved with. I started, now I don't script my videos, I don't sit and write a plan, I probably should. I tend to waffle, and my waffle leads me in various directions. And then I remembered something that Brother George said to me actually quite a lot of years ago now. He spoke to me about not allowing a root of bitterness. And as I was talking to the camera, looking at flowers and plants and things and pointing the camera at tomatoes and all of that, I realised that I was very much allowing a root of bitterness. I started wandering off into talking about former colleagues and societal changes in England, and it was actually becoming quite miserable and depressing. So I stopped, I turned the camera off, I went and had a cup of tea and I played with a cat. I thought we'll try again and we'll stick to the point. Right, why Azay-le-Ferron? I actually get asked that by quite a few people that live and whose great-grandparents lived in Azay-le-Ferron. And truth is, I have no special reason for Azay-le-Ferron rather than Dern-le-Palestel or Martizay or Charnizay or Obterre. It just happened that it was Azay-le-Ferron. And a very simple reason for that. I had worked out that my retirement, I wanted to be somewhere other than southern England. Whole host of reasons. And I started talking to estate agents, immobilier, and they would send, or they would advertise online, they would show pictures of houses and properties and things that they had for sale. And some of them were incredibly interesting, incredibly exciting sort of places. Some of them were prices that you could sort of say, I'll have two and with the change I'll buy a nice car. And started looking at some of these places. Now, it is true to say that if you go online and look at property prices in rural France, you will find houses that are silly cheap. Incredibly cheap. You know, literally sort of take your billfold out, pay the money now cheap. And all of those houses have enormous problems, little things like not having water connected. And if the estate agents have done their job right, they will have a dossier, a little folder of things that say, yes, but it's not a problem, because here is all of the paperwork and an estimate of cost from the water company. How to get water to this house. It will only cost you €18,000. Oh great, okay. And the bit of paper from the electric suppliers saying, yes, not a problem, we can hook you up to mains electricity. That will only cost you €15,000. And sewers and drains and roofs and so on and so forth. The silly, cheap houses come with a whole raft of problems. None of them are insurmountable. You can overcome all of the problems. It's a bit like the old joke, you know, how do you become rich owning a boat? Well, you start by being very rich. And if you buy a boat, you will end up rich. So we looked at properties in various regions of France, and we looked at the problems that different regions have, the style of buildings, the things about climate. You know, you don't want to live somewhere where it's minus 42 one day and 110 the next. You want to live somewhere with a reasonable climate. And that sort of narrowed things down. And I'd spoken with an estate agent who had a list of properties for sale in this part of France. True to say, all of them were interesting. All of them had pros, all of them had cons. The first one, the major problem was it was just about ready to fall down. That was quite an interesting moment when we put a crowbar to the front door, and we got the front door open, and the estate agent shouted at me, "Don't go in!" And we looked, and the main beam that holds the house up was actually cracked and fallen. It was a very cheap property. But when we got to Azay-le-Ferron, and the estate agent showed me this place. Right, didn't need a new roof. That's a good thing. Not about to fall down. That was quite a good thing. Already connected to the town sewer, already connected to the electric and a water supply. All very big positives for this particular place. Big garden. I wasn't convinced then, and I'm still not convinced now, that I wanted a piece of land quite as big as this. But hey, you know, too much is not necessarily a problem. And the price, the asking price, was not bad at all. And the estate agent said, make him an offer. Yeah, the estate agent said, the house has been on the market for 2 years and you're the first person to ask. So I made what I thought was quite a rude offer. I expected the seller to say, in French, "You are joking." I expected him to say, "Make me another offer." And he didn't. I made an offer, he said yes. So that's how we ended up in Azay-le-Ferron and not Martizay, or not There are so many absolutely delightful places in this part of France. Would I recommend Azay-le-Ferron? Yes and no. I would, before I made a recommendation, I would want to know what you were looking for. You can't live here unless you've got access to a car. And that's not a joke. If you haven't got access to a car, shopping is going to be very tedious. You can't live here unless you don't mind cutting grass. It doesn't matter what property you buy here, they've all got gardens, they've all got biggish gardens by the standards that I was used to. That wasn't a problem to me as such. So that's why Azay-le-Ferron. Why France? I'm going to give a stupid answer to that, to avoid going into territory where the root of bitterness will emerge. I'm going to say, why France? Because it isn't England. Yeah, we'll leave that there. One of my very good English friends said, you do understand that the French people are not better than the English people. I said, yeah, I guess that's right. You know, the people of a country, people are people. There are nice people, there are nasty people, there are generous people, there are mean people, clever ones, stupid ones. People are people, regardless of whether they're French or American or South Korean, or, you know, people are people. The great advantage I have here is if I was in England and I heard someone saying something that was crassly moronic and stupid, I would understand them and I would become cross. Here, if there's a Frenchman speaking French and he is saying something moronic, I sort of smile and nod because I haven't thoroughly learned the language yet. So I don't know, maybe I stand in the marketplace and people are smiling and insulting my entire raison d'etre. And I just don't know. It's lovely. There are things sometimes that ignorance is bliss. Anyway, I suspect we'll talk more at various stages about why I'd had enough of work, why I made the choice to retire. It has something to do with if you murder your line manager, you get sent to prison. If you retire, you can move to France and grow tomatoes.